All right, guys, welcome back to the Something Super podcast. I'm Steve.
And I'm Mark.
So today, we're actually going to break down Batman Under the Red Hood.
This is honestly one of the greatest animated movies, in my opinion, and my personal favorite storyline that the DC movies have ever done. And I'm really hoping that someday we get a live-action film here. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of intensity, and it's a good mystery for those of you who haven't seen it. So we gotta warn you, spoilers will be ahead.
So hopefully by now you've seen it. It did come out in 2010, but if not, we're going to do a little synopsis and breakdown for you. I think it's a huge thing to note that if you've seen Titans, Season 1 and 2, the Jason Todd that's in there just confirmed that he is going to be playing the Red Hood in Season 3, which is huge for all live-action fans, I think. Personally, I love the Jason Todd that's in the new Titans. He plays an asshole really well. Mark, you said you haven't seen any of the new Titans yet, right?
Not yet. That's probably what I'm going to be starting within the next week.
Okay, awesome. So, let's do a little breakdown of the animated series, and we'll start with you. What was your favorite part?
So, me personally, the one scene that sticks out in my mind in this movie, and we'll get to it later on as well, is once Bruce's chase scene with the Red Hood finishes. He falls through the ceiling of the railway. He lands, he's getting on his motorcycle, and as the train goes by, the train's gone, Red Hood's gone. Batman goes back to the Batcave, he's analyzing the tape, and after cutting out the audio and kind of reversing it, he hears something. But he's not sure what it is, so it cuts out all the reverb, cuts out all the background noise, and all you're left with is just hearing, "Hello, Bruce." And right there, it's something that Bruce never really encountered. There's only been a select few in the DC universe who have actually broken down who he is, not been told. Bane's on that list, a couple other guys. So the fact that this person actually knew who he was, you just know it's going to be a worthy adversary.
Absolutely. And I think another big part of that is that Jason Todd was trained by Batman, so there's subtle nods to that throughout the movie as well, during their fight scenes. And that's what sort of kickstarts Batman's memories of his young Robin, was the different ways that he fights in combat, the different ways that he gets out of certain situations, like when Batman shoots the grappling hook at him, and he uses the knife last second to sort of cut that string. I thought that was an amazing look at sort of what Batman has done as far as training, and then what Jason Todd has taken into, his future endeavors.
No, yeah, I completely agree. So the thing to me that always stood out was when they actually are discussing that, them being Batman and Nightwing. Even Nightwing's this kid's got skill. You have to be trained to know how to do that. They know that they're not dealing with just your everyday run of the mill new kind of thug. This is someone has training to a high level to be able to do things that literally only select people know how to do and when to do it.
Absolutely. And, again, the star-studded cast that they picked out for this, we got Jensen Ackles playing the Red Hood, Neil Patrick Harris playing Nightwing, which I thought was awesome. And I know you'd mentioned that to me after I watched it the first time, because it's something you don't even necessarily realize. But after you had mentioned it, and my second rewatch through it, it's definitely very prevalent of the NPH in that movie.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I was a Supernatural fan, so Jensen Ackles just has one of those voices where it's you just know it's him, without even saying anything. But the fact that Neil Patrick Harris here kind of broadened his horizon. I know he has played other DC villains in other movies. I believe he's done the Riddler in a couple of series. I think there's one or two other characters. So he's done voice acting before, but I've never picked up on it until my third time through when I actually watched the credits.
Yeah, I think that's what did it for me. I skipped through the intro, first watch around, just to sort of get to the action. But I started watching again last night just to sort of get ready for this, and I didn't notice that in the beginning. The art style in it's great, the acting in it's fantastic, and I really did like seeing sort of how the Red Hood, Jason Todd's gradual decline in his sort of mental stability as he gets closer and closer to getting the Joker out of jail, and just sort of how bloodlust, or I guess how much bloodlust he has for the Joker. And we're going to blame that mostly on the Lazarus Pit, but he's always sort of been a little bit unhinged.
Oh, absolutely. He's always been the most aggressive Robin. Next, until Damian came into the picture, but for me, it was more so and interesting because what I want to do is pose a question to you because obviously watching it, this is one of the first times that obviously Ra's al Ghul always wanted Bruce to be his protege. He wants Bruce to pick up the mantle of the head of the demon. He wants him to run the League of Assassins. And this is one of the first times that he usually tries to do it through force. But this is one of the first times you actually see him kind of feel guilt. And when he brings Jason back, as you mentioned, from the Lazarus Pit, it's a controlled anger. Because towards the end, Jason even says, they're not talking about killing Penguin. They're not talking about killing Two-Face. Just Joker. Why is he still alive? He's just him. So what I wanted to pose to you is, how did you feel about seeing kind of that different side of Raish, to where he actually does care for Bruce, and it's not just something as far as, oh, I just want you to be pick up after me. It's more an actual father type feeling.
Sure. So I think that builds a little more depth into Ra's al Ghul's character. What I really liked about it was the fact that it sort of showed, like you said, that he's not necessarily a fatherly figure to him, but he's somebody that sort of overlooks and makes sure that Bruce is still in check. Because while the League of Assassins is the League of Assassins, I think it's a big thing that Ra's respects the fact that Bruce has that sort of no-killing clause in his contract.
Right, because that's always been the one thing that's held Bruce back, honestly, and from becoming the head of the demon. And that's something that Ra's has always kind of tried to get him to do, but the fact that, Ra's was trying to set up his own plot, and he's the one who hired the Joker without knowing that whole outcome of that scenario was going to be the Joker was going to kill Jason Todd. Obviously, in the comics, there's a whole other story before that where Jason's looking for his mother. And actually his mother and him are both in the warehouse, to where they kind of cut this out and they kind of got right to it. Jason's in the warehouse getting beat by the Joker with the iconic crowbar. That's, as far as people know, that's the one thing that stands out in the DC universe. Something out of all the gadgets, out of all the tricks, out of all the devices that Joker and Batman both have, an everyday crowbar is one of the most impactful pieces to this entire storyline.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a big thing, later in the movie when Jason finally brings the Joker out of the closet when he's having that conversation with Batman. That's his go-to as well. He pulls out the crowbar, he decides to start beating the Joker in the same way that he was being beaten. Again, that subtle nods to Joker's sort of divisiveness, and that's sort of how he revamps the Joker's memory as well. I guess would be the best word for it, is he's kickstarting his memory to, this is exactly what you did to me. I'm going to do it right back to you, because that's how Jason thinks. I think prior to the Lazarus Pit, as he was very revenge-based, but I think the Lazarus Pit sort of amplified those emotions and the need for the revenge that he was seeking. And, I mean, that was the basics, the backstory of the entire movie, was everything that the Red Hood did was to get Joker out of prison. So all the dominoes fell in place. Everything happened the way that it did because the Joker was supposed to leave Arkham.
Yeah. So, like you said, everything he was doing was leading up to getting the Joker out. So the first thing the movie starts out with is Nightwing and Batman, and they're tracking down your everyday thugs. Turns out they were transporting an Amazo for Black Mask. So, they catch the guys, they defeat Amazo, and then all of a sudden he gets, Red Hood shoots the two thugs, so they can't reveal who's doing what. Then in a later scene, when he calls all of the mob bosses together, they're like, well, what if we don't want to do it? Literally, you see a brutality you've never seen from Batman. He throws a duffel bag down, they open the bag, they don't show what's in there, but basically he says, look, this is the heads of all of your captains. This is one night. Give me a week. So that right there, basically let him corner the market. And his whole goal was to make Black Mask just so desperate that literally the only thing that he could do was turn to Joker. Like, he had no other choice but to go to that man.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was a great, again, like you said, it's something that's never really been done before. Beheadings. Again, they didn't show it, but the nod to it was definitely there. And I think that sort of, again, solidified him in the quote-unquote villain world. Even though he's not technically doing it for villainous reasons, he's just doing it because he wants that one person dead, like you said. It's not any other bad person that's ever been in any DC comic. It's just the Joker. He has that serious resentment and hate for the Joker.
Yeah. For me, too, one thing that I do like is that he's not just this bloodthirsty, like, character that they created. Because then about halfway through the movie, you know, Black Mask sends the hitmen after Batman. They're actually overcoming him, and Red Hood actually kind of comes to his aid. But it's kind of, I feel like for him, that was his moment to show, like, look, I'm not under you anymore, Bruce, even though Bruce hadn't figured out who he was yet. I feel like for him, that was his defining moment of, I'm not going to be a Batman. I'm going to do things my way. My way's working. Obviously, meaning killing people, not just, oh, we're going to lock you up in Arkham, let you get out. Lock you up in Arkham, let you get out. Because even in The Killing Joke, which I know you said you haven't seen, the Joker makes a remark like, oh, you're just going to send me back to Arkham, but what does it matter if I don't care? So, just that mentality, like, the Joker knows, oh, Batman's not going to kill me, so I can do whatever I want. So it gives Joker that freedom. It doesn't put him in check. To where now, like, with the Red Hood, you see Black Mask is starting to put himself in check on different decisions he's making because he knows if he gets caught, he's done for.
Definitely. And I like the fact that DC sort of made the Red Hood the way he is. Because, again, don't get me wrong, the everyday run-of-the-mill superhero is great, but I think there is a fine line between, like you said, just putting someone away and having someone just go back to prison time and time again and never actually learning anything, versus you watch someone get killed once and that's that. You know that that's the line right there.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. Now, prior to the first time viewing that movie, did you have knowledge of the Red Hood and who he was or everything? Or did that movie kind of reveal that to you, that it was Jason coming back?
So I knew the Red Hood was Jason Todd. However, that sort of elaborated a little bit more on the story of why he became the Red Hood and how he became the Red Hood. Because prior to that, again, with minimal knowledge in the DC universe, I was aware that Robin became Nightwing, Dick Grayson, and then, you know, Jason Todd's Robin became the Red Hood. I didn't know that he was brought back to life via the Lazarus Pit or he had even died at all.
Okay, yeah, because as you alluded to earlier, like, it came out in 2010, so I was kind of in the comics, but I wasn't like a heavy reader of the comics. I was more into the animation. I was more into the movies, like that kind of stuff. So for me, this is kind of like what brought that out. So literally when that scene that I talked about, or that's why it was one of my favorite scenes, is the hello Bruce. Like, to me, I was like, oh wait, like, who could this be now? And then once they started showing, like, flashbacks of him and things like that, like, I started to piece it together, and I figured that's the route that they were going. However, at the very end, when they're fighting on top of the church, and, you know, Batman knocks off his helmet, and there's Jason just standing there. Like, I was in shock. I actually paused the movie and was like, they did this turn so well. They, like you said, the voice acting was so good that every, like, sentence he speaks, I can feel his pain. I can feel his agony. And honestly, when he confronts Batman at the end with the Joker as his hostage, that, like, just the drama that they build up and the emotion that they put into that, it's honestly unrivaled from almost anything we've gotten in the live action. Like, there's across Marvel or DC, like, just the voice acting alone, the fact that there's no facial expressions on the actual people, like, you can feel the torture, the pain, like, what he's been through. You can actually kind of empathize with him. Like, you can see, hey, look, like, I've personally never been murdered, but if I had been, and then I've been brought back to life, like, how would I react? And it would probably be the same way. Like, first, I would be like, what happened? He goes off, he kills, like, 3 of Raish's henchmen just out of, like, sheer confusion and rage. Then he jumps off the cliff, body's never found. Like, for me, that's what drew me into the DC universe. And then I started reading the comics, and now I actually know he's in a lot of things. Like you said, he's going to be coming up at Titans. He was in the Arkham Knight game. There was a whole DLC package for him where he took down Black Mask. Like, the way that they built that character since his arrival has been phenomenal.
Yeah, no, again, I could echo that, but it really is the character development for the Red Hood. Amazing. I like Jason Todd in the Titans series, which again you said you're going to get to this week. The way they're building his character in there, I think is very similar to the way they built it in this series. Again, they haven't sort of expressed the Joker or necessarily Batman, although they did nod to him at the end of the second season. But I'd like to see how they're going to sort of bring him to light, whether it be the Lazarus Pit and death, or whether it's just a sort of turn away from the Titans. But I did like seeing the, again, animated on-screen version of him versus some of the comics that I've started reading thus since.
Right. I mean, like I've been saying, the writing for this movie was so well done. For me, I mean, with the Joker, like it wasn't your Mark Hamill. I'm blanking on the name of the guy who did voice him, but did a phenomenal job. I mean, just the jokes that he makes are such Joker-esque kind of jokes. Like, at the end, when, like Robin and Batman are having this heartfelt discussion about, like, why Batman doesn't kill and why Batman won't kill Joker. And then the Joker turns around and he's like, oh, it's the kid. Like, let's take pictures. Ooh, get one with me and the kid. Ooh, how about then me and you? Then the three of us. He's like, then get one with the crowbar. Like, just the joke that he makes, it's so sinister, but, like, it just shows how much pleasure the Joker actually takes in the heinous acts that he commits.
Yes, absolutely. He's, like you've said before, I think you said it last week in our other podcast, he's just very, he's bad for the sake of being bad. There's no real reasoning behind it. He's just evil, and he's crazy as shit, to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Heath Ledger hit the nail on the head when he said, I'm just a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I actually caught it. Like, he's just seeing how much Batman's going to let him get away with. And that's what really drives me to enjoy him as a character, as I'm sure everybody enjoys the Joker as a character. So, for me, like, just getting that bit and the fact that, Jason might actually finally do it. But, again, like, the humor, it's so dark. When he's sitting with Black Mask, and Black Mask is like, do you have what it takes? And all he does is he's eating chips and asks for a glass of water. Like, it's just such a scene where it's like, you wouldn't be expecting this crazed dude to just be like, can I just get some water? But then he smashes the glass, slits all the henchmen's throats, and steals Black Mask's gun. He's like, I'm going to need some henchmen. But not these guys. They're dead already. So, like, for me, they kept the nature of the Joker, and they gave the most quick and easy way to side with Jason and, like, dude, just shoot him already. Like, just end the Joker. That's it right there. And then just worry about the little no-name thugs like Scarecrow, Croc, Two-Face. Like, they're the ones that they don't make as much of a noise. The Riddler, oh, what's he going to do? Make another puzzle? Like...
Yeah, they even nod to that in Batman Hush, that Riddler's sort of like a C-class lister at this point, He's not really big anymore in the, supervillain game. Your top guys are going to be Penguin. They're going to be the Jokers. I mean, Scarecrow, I guess, more or less, but you look at Riddler and he's just kind of it's not somebody you're going to be scared of. It's just a guy that's got some riddles. Right,
like between Ra's al Ghul, who's literally been controlling the world in an Illuminati type figure for centuries. You got Bane, who's an overcharged athlete, and he's got the smarts of he's got one of the highest IQs in the DC universe. Like Deathstroke, which we're going to be getting to in one of our upcoming episodes. Like, you have all these guys that are just such not only powerful figures physically, but mentally too. Like, they can kill Batman. As where Riddler, he's smarter than Batman, and he's proved on a couple different occasions that he is, but he doesn't really do much, like you said. So,
all right, well, that's all I've got as far as Under the Red Hood. Anything else from you?
No, all I would say is, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on HBO Max. If you have seen it, go watch it again because honestly, I watch it for the 10th, 20th time and I'm still picking up new little things. But one thing that I would say is like really pay attention to the writing and the voice acting because I feel like it's a little bit underrated for what they were able to accomplish.
For now, this is Something Super Podcast.
I'm Mark,
I'm Steve.
and thank you guys for tuning in.